So let's begin. So the first bit, of course, is about repealing of the farm laws. Before I talk about this news, I would want to understand from any one of you how a law is passed. So, for instance, something which is there already in the Constitution of India, and if at all there the Parliament thinks that there's a requirement of it being amended or getting repealed, or depending upon a particular situation. So how do you basically amend a particular law through the Parliament? Can somebody tell me? Write it down. You can raise your hand so that I can give you access to speak as well. Not really, alias we have just started. So era introduce bill, get majority, becomes act. All right, all right. Pass through one of the houses. There's a provision in the Constitution. What is that provision, Shreya and Era? What is the article which I need to deal with, if at all I need to amend a particular provision? Where is it given in the Constitution of India? Right. So of course, you have to understand. Taha has answered it extremely well. It's Article 368. So passing of a new law, that is done when one of the houses proposes it. It gets passed and then moves to the other house, gets passed, and then it gets the assent of the president. That's how a bill becomes an act. But at times, so for instance, a bill or there's a particular amendment which is required, that is done through Article 368 of the Constitution of India, which is extremely crucial because a lot of you might have already read about it, how Article 368 can amend any provision of the Constitution of India, provided it is not affecting the basic structure of the Constitution. This was given in the Keshav Nanda Bharti case. Now there are three ways to it. One, of course, is through a simple majority. So for instance, delimitation of constituency, अगर किसी constituency का area increase करना है, decrease करना है, or addition in the number of states and UTs, or anything which is related to the salaries of the members of parliament. All of this can be passed by the parliament by just a majority. So I was talking about how the amendment procedure is done. You have to understand that whenever I'm looking at an amendment, it can be done through three ways. One, of course, being a case of simple majority, wherein you just need 50%, 51% of the total members to vote, and then of course it will go to the other house, and then the other house will pass, and then the president gives the assent. So you have to understand that if at all there is an admission of a new state, or the constituency, the area of the constituency needs to be altered, or salaries and other things of the member of parliaments need to be altered. All of that is included under the first category, which is amending through a simple majority. Then comes amending through a special majority, which is 2/3 of the majority of the members present and voting. Now you have to understand that there's a difference between 2/3 members, or 2/3 majority of the total membership, and 2/3 majority of members present and voting, right? So if you remember, how many of you remember how the president is removed? That is done through 2/3 of the total majority, right? So मान लो 540 seats हैं लोक सभा में, so 2/3 will be somewhere around 363, 361, something like that. And 2/3 members present and voting, of course, will be less than 360, because not all the members who are the participants in the house, they will turn up every day. So that's how that is what the difference is when it comes to 2/3 members present and voting. And in this category, alteration or changing, the fundamental rights, or directive principle of state policy, all of this is included. Then comes a third category, in which, along with the special majority, which is 2/3 of the member present and voting, you also need to get a ratification of half of the states. So anything which is related to High Court or Supreme Court. So recently अभी ये Indian Judicial Services आने वाली थी, जिससे मतलब just like an IAS IPS service, the judiciary was also supposed to be Indian cadre services. but then the government couldn't receive the ratification of the state. So that's how it is done. So matter which are extremely crucial. So for instance, if you want to alter the subjects in the lists, right? 7th schedule में तीनों list दे रखे हैं, union, state और concurrent. If at all you want to remove or alter the subjects in that list, again you will require 2/3 of the members present and voting, and along with it you will also have to have at least half of the states giving the ratification in the same thing, right? So that's how it is done. So three ways of amending, and then of course you have a normal way of passing a bill that becomes an act. I hope you have seen it in the union legislature. वो 108 109 के आसपास है, वो आप देख लेना. Now, coming back to the important topic here, which is of course, the farm laws repeal. Now, this of course witnessed widespread hue and cry from the farmers. They kept on protesting, majorly because of a couple of things. One, of course, they were contending that we already have a huge problem with the middlemen, right? ये जो मंडी सिस्टम में जो मिडिल वाले लोग होते हैं उनसे हमें ऑलरेडी दिक्कत हो रही है. आप इसको क्या कर रहे हो, आप यू आर रेगुलेटिंग दिस, राइट? यू आर सैंक्शनिंग और यू आर जस्टिफाइंग इट by institutionalizing middlemen. So that is something which is a huge problem for us. Secondly, the three laws, they never talked about MSP, which is the minimum support price which the farmers used to get before, right? What is the minimum? What is the minimum support price? So minimum support price is the lowest threshold of money which the farmers can get if at all things go haywire. तो गवर्नमेंट बोलती है कि भाई अगर मान लो 40 रुपया मैंने MSP सेट किया है, कुछ भी हो जाए 40 रुपया तो आपको मिलेगा ही. दैट्स हाउ इट इज डन. सो यहाँ पे जो 3 लॉज लाए थे उसमें MSP का मेंशन नहीं था. सो the farmers, they kept on asking the government to include it formally. They, of course, Narendra Modi and the team, they said that although we have not mentioned MSP, but yes, we have thought something about MSP. So they were having this huge problem with this as well, that they are basically all over, and they are already, we have a lot of problems. They are simply institutionalizing it. So that was how it was, and a host of other things as well. So the whole regulation going ahead with so initially of course mandi system में local तरीके से farmers को चलाना होता है. Of course they not being abreast with a central way of going about the entire farm produce is something which was also creating problems with them. Anyway, so these three farm laws have been repealed now. The first one, of course, was Farmer Produce Trade and Commerce Act 2020. So it is aimed at allowing trade in agricultural produce, the existing APMC, Agriculture Produce Market Mandis. Second one is Farmers Employment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act. So that seeks to provide a framework for contract farming. And then, of course, Essential Commodities Act 1955 में in fact आया था ये. That's basically to remove commodities such as cereals, pulses, oil seeds from the list of essential commodities. Now, if I look at the basic reasons, of course, MSP is something which is widely considered to be one of the main reasons there. Electricity amendment was also something which they were protesting, and Swaminathan Committee. So Swaminathan Committee, I think it was instituted back in 2014 for MSP, and it had given its fair share of recommendations of how MSP is not really, it's not going a long way in helping farmers to ensure efficiency there. Anyway, so this was what was creating a lot of problems, and therefore, after the government was not able to contain the widespread protests and criticisms, it finally repealed the three farm laws. Let's move. Yeah, let's move. So next up, we have Prohibition on Child Marriage Amendment Bill. Before moving, guys, make sure that you have this list of important cabinet ministers. I think it is 31 right now, including Prime Minister Modi. So can somebody tell me who's the current women, child and women minister? Smriti Irani. Superb. And this, in fact, we will be covering that because this happened in July, wherein, it was a routine, movement when it comes to the cabinet. So last time also the Narendra Modi government did it. This time also they did. So right in the middle, they do, they ask ministers, especially the ones who have not been performing, to resign and try and get new faces in the cabinet. So right now it is 31, including the prime minister. And if I talk about the council of ministers, of course, that is 78. So it has to be 15% of the total membership of Lok Sabha, which is 540. 15% of 540 will be somewhere around 80, 81. So it is right, I think 78, 79 ke aaspas ki hai. So yeah, all right. Let's move. So prohibition on child marriage amendment bill. So Trinamool MP Sushmita Dev is the only women member of the parliamentary panel that will examine the prohibition on child marriage amendment bill, seeking to increase the age of legal marriage of women from 18 to 21 years. During the winter session of parliament, the bill was introduced in Lok Sabha by Union Minister Smriti Irani. Then it was sent to 31-member committee for examination. According to members list, the Parliamentary Standing Committee led by BJP senior leader Vinay Sahasrabudhe, available on Rajya Sabha website. Sushmita Dev is the only woman among 31 members. What does it do? So it will override all the other laws and customs. So proposes to raise legal age of women to marry from 18 to 21 on par with men. Seeks to amend the other laws for uniformity in the age of marriage, be it Indian Christian Marriage Act or the Parsi Marriage and Divorce Act, Muslim Personal Shariat Application Act, Special Marriage Act 1954, Hindu Marriage Act, Foreign Marriage Act, all of that. Anyone married before age of 21 can seek annulment up to 5 years instead of current 2 from the time of attaining majority. Amendments to override all the other laws, custom, usage, or practice bill to come into force 2 years after the from the date it receives the president assent. So, the Union Cabinet's proposal for bringing uniformity in marriageable age of men and women is certainly a progressive step to realize Goal 5 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which asks nation states to formulate policy to achieve gender equality. Current laws, so Hindu Marriage Act for Hindus, it sets 18 years as the minimum age of marriage for women, and 21 years as the minimum age for male. In Islam, the marriage of minor who has attained puberty is considered valid. Now, puberty is subject to, there's no fixed age there. Special Marriage Act 1954 and Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006 also prescribes 18 and 21 years as the minimum age of consent for marriage for women and men respectively. In India, the minimum age of marriage was prescribed for the first time by the law known as SARDA Act 1929. It was renamed as Child Marriage Restraint Act was amended, blah blah blah. ठीक है, अब इससे ज़्यादा जानने की ज़रूरत नहीं. So yeah, that was about the prohibition on child marriage amendment bill. All right, let's move. Criminal Procedure Act. So what is the objective? To ensure more efficient and expeditious investigation of crime by modern technology. So this will replace the Identification of Prisoners Act 1920, which of course has been proposed by the Law Commission of India in 87th report. And there was a SC ruling as well, State of UP versus Ram Babu Mishra. What will it do? So it would allow police and prison authorities to collect, store, and analyze physical and biological samples, including retina and iris scans. These provisions will further be made applicable to person under any preventive detention law. Guys, where do we get the provision of preventive detention? Which article? Supriya, Article 20 is not that. Arrest and detention is Article 22. 20 is ex post facto, double jeopardy, and right against self-incrimination. ठीक है, चलो. These provisions will further be made applicable to the person under any preventive detention law. So preventive detention law, of course, is slightly aberrant to a normal law. Preventive detention may, you're not required to be shown to a magistrate within 24 hours of your arrest, right? The National Crime Records Bureau That will be the repository of physical and biological samples, signature, and handwriting data that can be preserved for at least 75 years. NCRB also has been empowered to share the records with any other law enforcement agency. It also authorizes for taking measurements of convicts and other persons for identification and investigation of criminal matters. All right, support. Sure, let's move. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this is something which you already have covered in one of the classes here. Anyway, so this is Taxation Laws Amendment Act 2021, and this is basically to nullify the tax claim based on retrospective use of anti-evasion tax law amendment, which was introduced back in 2012. Now, this, of course, is to ensure the offshore transactions which involve Indian assets, they are taxable in India. So this was brought about as a reason of landmark verdict in the Vodafone International Holdings case. The government has also ordered to return $1.7 billion to Kine Energy after it lost arbitration proceedings. Kine Energy and Kine UK Holdings versus the Republic of India, that is the case's name. The company subsequently secured a freeze order on Indian assets from a Paris court. Vodafone Group also won a similar tax dispute with the government over a $3 billion tax demand. So how it will affect? So of course, the move will help close all the past disputes and avoid all the future litigation costs. The government, of course, proposes to reinstate or refund only the principal. It would not be returning back any interest which is given to the companies. So the new bill says tax claims made on offshore transaction executed prior to 28th May 2012 will be nullified subject to riders. Status of such demands at a glance. Status of retrospective tax demands assessment pending on the account of court stay order. Total demands 17, arbitration awards given, 2 cases in arbitration 4. So majorly these were the huge lump sum case. Of course, the two companies, the two important companies which were involved, of course, is Vodafone and Kine Energy, which I think Vedanta has acquired now. Anyway, this is something which I am pretty sure you might have already covered in one of the sessions of general knowledge. Let's move. All right, next up, Trafficking in Persons Prevention, Care and Rehabilitation Bill 2021. So the Union Ministry of Women and Child Development has invited suggestion for the draft of Trafficking in Persons Bill. The law, of course, will be applicable to all the citizens of the country, within and outside the country, persons on any ship or aircraft registered in India, wherever it may be carrying Indian citizens, wherever they may be, and a foreign national or a stateless person who has residence in the country. The penalty, it will have a minimum of 7 years of imprisonment, which can be extended till 10 years, and a fine of rupees 5 lakh. The bill also extends beyond the protection of women and children, as the victims would now include transgenders, as well as any person who may be victim of trafficking, and also does away with the provision that a victim necessarily needs to be transported from one place to another to be defined as a victim. The draft of the bill also states that the NIA shall act as the national investigating and coordinating agency responsible for prevention and combating of trafficking in persons and other offences under this act. So, speaking of the NIA, can somebody tell me who is currently heading the NIA? Yeah, yeah. Not, is it some Kulkarni? No, no. Right, it's Kuldeep Singh, right? And this body, of course, was sanctioned right after the 26/11 attacks, wherein, of course, the government thought that their investigative. So this is the primary counter-terrorism body in the entire country, and it started back in right after the 26/11 attacks, and the government, of course, felt a need to have a cohesive investigative agency which should be laced with cyber technology and other things. So interestingly, a very recent amendment has also happened. This, I think, has happened in 2019 for it's an NIA Act, and it includes the body to, to ensure that human trafficking is not taking place, anything related to fake currency is not happening, anything related to cyber terrorism or prohibited arms and ammunitions. All of that is being taken care of. So Kuldeep Singh is currently heading this primary counter terrorism body, which is National Investigation Agency. All right, so this was Trafficking in Persons Prevention, Care and Rehabilitation Bill, right? So, be it sexual exploitation or forced labor, debt bondage, domestic servitude, organ removal, forced begging, child soldiers, forced marriage, all of this will be taken care. Okay, chalo, let's move. So, let's look at this now. Uttar Pradesh Population Control Stabilization and Welfare Bill. So let's first look at Uttar Pradesh. So of course, currently again, Yogi Adityanath is back as the chief minister there, and the governor there is Anandiben Patel. Capital is in Lucknow. Uh, Now, interestingly, this bill, it is basically to ensure that the families plan their future properly. To put some perspective, the bill also, states a few figures here. So the objective here is to decrease the total fertility rate, number of children per woman, from 2.7 to 2.1 by 2026 and 1.7 by 2030. Increase the modern contraceptive prevalence rate from 31.7% to 45% by 26 and 52% by 2030. Increase male methods of contraception use from 10.8% to 15.1% by 26. Maternal mortality rate per 1 lakh live births from 197 to 150 by 26 and 98 by 2030. Decreasing the infant mortality rate from 43 to 32 by 26 and 22 by 2030. Decreasing under 5 mortality rate from 47 to 35 by 2016 and 25 by 2030. Of course, when I talk about these figures, I don't think you should be including this as a part of your notebook, but make sure that you know the Indian infant mortality rate, the maternal mortality rate, the overall fertility rate, the man to women ratio, all of that, at least you know about India as a country. ये उत्तर प्रदेश related उतना relevant नहीं होगा. Now, if I talk about this bill, so this, of course, Uttar Pradesh government has unveiled the new population policy, and this was done on the World Population Day, which happens every year on 11th of July. UN Development Program is the global development network of the UN. It promotes technical and investment cooperation among nations and advocates for change. So this is a body which is headquartered in New York, founded back in 1965. It's organization United Nations General Assembly. Speaking of the World Population Day, in 1989, the UNDP recommended that 11th July be observed by the international community as World Population Day, a day to focus attention on urgency and importance of public issues. UNDP was inspired by public interest and awareness that was created by 5 billion day on 11 July 1987 when the world's population reached 5 billion. Right. So yeah, that's about the new population policy has been unveiled by the Yogi Adityanath government in Pradesh. Let's move. Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi PM-KISAN scheme. So the central government has released the 8th installment of the PM-KISAN scheme. This is the first time that the West Bengal farmers have joined the scheme. Uh, Direct income support of rupees 6,000 per annum, which is effective from December 2018. That will be given to farmers. This was launched back in February 2019. Provides 6,000 per annum to eligible farmers. Amount is paid in 3 installments, and the money is transferred to beneficiaries through DBT or Direct Beneficiary Transfer System. Initiative was announced by Piyush Goyal during the 2019 interim union budget. Speaking of Piyush Goyal, can let's discuss the ministries which he's holding. Anyone who can take a guess there? What are the ministries which Piyush Goyal holds? Right, commerce and industry, textiles. Yes, consumer affairs, food and public distribution. Right. So commerce and industry, consumer affairs, food and public distribution, and textile. No, I don't think so. External affairs, S. Jaishankar is pretty capable of running the entire show there. A recent foreign secretary has also been added. Who's he? So Harshvardhan Shringla was the foreign secretary, but now that's changed. Who's the new foreign secretary of India? Yeah, Ira, that's correct. Sherpa in G20, he's also that, and he's also leader of the House in Rajya Sabha, right? And all of you are correct when you say Vinay Quatra, Taha, Alaiskar, Harshita, Vishwanshi, all of you are correct. So it's Vinay Quatra who is the new foreign secretary there. All right, so this was about Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. Direct transfer into bank accounts into three equal installments. First installment up to 31st March 2019 to be paid this year itself. 75,000 crore in outlay for 2019-2020 and 20,000 crore in 2018-2019. Alright, so this is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. Next up, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. So again, this is related to providing free food grains, not to everyone but to the eligible population. So this basically includes around 80 lakh metric ton of food grains, which will be distributed to the public. Eligible families will not get 1 kg free pulses per month. This was provided under the scheme last year. Government is expected to shell out rupees 26,000 crores for the scheme this year, and center will bear the full cost of the scheme, about rupees 26,000 crores. The PM-GKAY scheme was launched last year for providing additional 5 kg of food grain to families under the NFS, which is the National Food Security Act. The scheme was relaunched during this year in the second wave of COVID-19 infections. Around 80 crore families are benefited from this scheme. Okay. So two yojanas. One is PM-GKAY, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. The other one is PM-KISAN Yojana. Okay. Next up, Assam-Mizoram border dispute. So this again has been in limelight. Uh, Several IED blasts were carried out inside the Kasher district of Assam, allegedly by individuals from Mizoram. That have, of course, that has led to resurfacing of the boundary issue between Assam and Mizoram. The interstate disputes are multifaceted. Beside disputes over boundaries, there are disputes over sharing of waters, and migration also impacts federal polity of India. Assam-Mizoram dispute stems from two notifications. One was, of course, the 1875 notification, which differentiated the Loshai Hills from the Kashar Plains. And the second notification back in 1933, which demarcated a boundary between Loshai Hills and Manipur. Mizoram believes that the boundary should be demarcated on the basis of 1875 notification, which was derived from the BEFR, or the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation. Mizoram, of course, was carved out of Assam back in 1972 and was granted statehood in 1987. Assam became a constituent state of India in 1950 and lost much of its territories of new states that emerged from within its boundary between early 1960s and 70s. Uh, all right, let's look at the political dispensation. The capital of course, Assam is a state in northeastern India known for its wildlife, archaeological sites, and tea plantations. Capital is Dispur. Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma. I think it's changed, is it? बीच में कुछ news आई थी, but right. I think 21 में election हुआ था इसका. हाँ, right. So anyway, Lovelina Borgohan, that's just a trivia, and Indian amateur boxer and Olympic medal winner. She won a bronze medal 2020 Summer Olympics. Speaking of Summer Olympics, do revise the important medalists, especially in the summer, winter, and the Paralympics. That is again a hot topic. Questions can be asked from there as well. Mizoram, it's a state in northeastern India. Aizawl is the seat of government and capital city. Name of the state is derived from Mizo and self-described name from the native inhabitants. Capital is Aizawl and chief minister is Zoramthanga. Okay, sure. Let's move. So Assam, of course, has a lot of border issues, as you can see. So speaking of the Assam-Meghalaya border dispute, uh, now, yeah, so what has been termed as the historic day for North, he's the Chief Minister of Assam and Meghalaya, signed an agreement in the presence of Amit Shah to resolve part of their 5-decade-old interstate border dispute. Meghalaya, of course, was carved out of Assam. Assam, of course, had its institution back in 1950. But a lot of other states were taken out from Assam. So yeah, so 1972 is what uh, the Meghalaya was carved out of. Resolution at 6 of 12 areas under dispute is significant, but remaining point of friction are more complex and may prove to be a bigger challenge. During British rule, Assam included present-day Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, and Meghalaya, besides Mizoram, which later became separate states. Both Assam and Meghalaya have constituted border dispute settlement committees. It has been decided to set up two regional committees to resolve the border disputes in a phased manner, and 5 aspects will be considered while resolving the border dispute. ठीक है, ठीक है. Assam and the border issues, states of Northeast were largely carved out of Assam, which has border disputes with several states. Assam border disputes with Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland are pending in the Supreme Court. Assam border disputes with Mizoram are currently in the phase of resolution through negotiation. Statehood day of Manipur, Meghalaya, and Tripura. So 1972, all the three states were born under the Northeastern Region Reorganization Act 1971. 1972, political map of Northeast India underwent a major change. Two UTs of Manipur and Tripura and the sub-state of Meghalaya got statehood. Later on, of course, all the UTs also, including Manipur and Tripura, got statehood. So I'll wait for a couple of minutes. I'll wait for you to take a picture of this and then we'll move. Yeah. Harshita asks, sir, is Assam still in controls of AFSPA? So not the entire state, of course, Harshita. So if I talk about AFSPA, apart from Assam, what are the other states which still has, AFSPA, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, right? Right. So Nagaland, Manipur, that's correct. Arunachal Pradesh also has it along with Assam, and then of course Jammu and Kashmir, which had the introduction of this act back in 1990. So of course now it is a union territory. So 4 states and 1 UT still has AFSPA in some districts. Jammu, the UT there. Then you have Arunachal Pradesh, Assam here, Nagaland, and Manipur. Right. Let's move. Again, so this is what I was talking about initially. This is a routine reshuffling which happens right at the middle of the total 5 years term of the central government. So let's quickly revise the 3 categories of minister. Of course, is cabinet minister. Right now it's 31, including prime minister, minister of state, and deputy minister. Now, cabinet minister, minister of state, and deputy minister are included under the council of ministers, right? COM, which is directly responsible to the Lok Sabha. So the moment it does not enjoys Lok Sabha's trust, so the president, of course, can remove the council of ministers as well. Now, speaking of the reshuffling, Raju, he has been made the law minister for diesel and petrol, if I'm not wrong. quickly look at the cabinet here. Kiran Rijiju, of course, is the current law minister. Hardeep Singh Puri. Right. So Kiran Rijiju is the law minister. Hardeep Singh Puri is the current petroleum and natural gas minister. Mansukh Mandavia, of course, health and family welfare. Uh, P. Rupala. Who's Purushottam Rupala? Which ministry is he heading? एक बार just check. G. Kishan Reddy is culture minister. Anurag Singh Thakur, of course, is sports minister. Rajkumar Singh, R.K. Singh, is from Bihar. He is the power minister, power and renewable energy minister. Narayan Rane is the ये अपना MSME है ना, MSME इंडस्ट्री का मिनिस्टर. सर्बानंद सोनोवाल, आई थिंक ये पोर्ट शिपिंग वाली मिनिस्ट्री, हाँ राइट, आयुष पोर्ट शिपिंग, राइट, हाँ राइट. ज्योतिरादित्य सिंधिया, ये तो काफ़ी पॉपुलर भी हो गया अभी, सिविल एविएशन. अभी इनफैक्ट वी सॉ हिम हियर इन प्रगति मैदान and Narendra Modi was launching the National Drone Mahotsav, right? So Jyotiraditya Scindia, of course, comes from Scindia dynasty. In fact, he had moved from Constitution. He is the civil aviation minister, right? Hmm. Right. So ये देख लेना एक बार. Make sure that the list includes there. Ali is asking, sir, Jitendra Singh Shekhawat is the Minister of Jal Shakti, then who's the person on the bottom left? ये पुराने हैं ये सारे. Drop देखो ना, लिखा है ना. देखो, Ravi Shankar Prasad was dropped because of that, that social media controversy he had, and he was slightly out loud out there. तो बहुत सारे रिफॉर्म करने की कोशिश कर रहा था, but attracted a lot of attention and unwanted attention, which at times became slightly problematic for the Narendra Modi government. And Harshvardhan, of course, was not able to handle the COVID crisis that well. Huh. I don't know whether that was a scapegoating or whatever. It could have been done in a better manner, I'm sure. But the way India has handled the way India has went ahead with the vaccine, that is something which is commendable. But the overall COVID crisis still could have been regulated and managed in a better manner. So of course, वो तो है ही. But you cannot compare it as well. Look at China and look at how Shanghai is dealing with the people who have just fevers. So the entire economy, everybody is. So you cannot deal with people in India like that. Of course, there will be repercussions. But it could have been slightly better, especially knowing fully well the kind of density which India has as a population. Anyway, let's move ahead. So this is what is Council of Ministers. Of course, this has to be 15% of the total membership of Lok Sabha. And Article 74, it talks about the Council of Ministers, which uh, also deals with appointment and responsibility and allowances. If states that CUM, Council of Ministers, collectively responsible for the Lok Sabha. लोकसभा का भी वो देख लेना आप लोग, कौन सेक्रेटरी जनरल, कौन लीडर ऑफ द हाउस है. लीडर ऑफ द हाउस ऑफ कोर्स नरेंद्र मोदी रहेगा, बट और Article 75 contains individual responsibility. It states that ministers hold office during the. All right, let's move ahead. So yeah, look at these articles. It's extremely important, right from the end of the vice president wala bit, and then you start and pick up the council of ministers, and then right from ये अपना आर्टिकल 80 के आसपास वहाँ पे जो हैं सारे आर्टिकल्स. इसमें बीच में अटॉर्नी जनरल वाला भी आता है, 76 में ही है आई थिंक. So to remember the important articles, they have a few exams have a habit of just simply picking up the articles and asking you. ठीक है, let's move. BH series registration, Ministry of Road Transport, and so this is Nitin Gadkari. So the ministry has introduced a new registration mark for new vehicles. Bharat series vehicles bearing the BH series mark will not have to require the assignment of new registration mark when the owner of vehicles shifts from another state, one state to another. Facility is available on a voluntary basis to defense personnel, employees of central government, central state public sector undertakings, and private sector companies and organizations. Now, the only prerequisite is that the private organization should have offices in 4 or more states or UTs. Okay, so BH series seems to be on track. This is again something which you already know. Twitter violating the new IT guidelines. So the Union Minister of Electronics and Information Technology, who is the current METI ka cabinet minister, Ashwini Vaishnav, right? Right. So yeah, so to ensure that the intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics code they are being complied, uh, they issued notices to Twitter. So by this, so the license was available under Section 79. It was basically withdrawn. So that protection is basically for that the social media intermediary will not be responsible for any content, any user posts on their platform. Now that has been withdrawn. So what are the highlights of this code? Social media intermediaries with more than 50 lakh users in India termed as significant social media intermediaries. It should consist of a grievance officer, chief compliance officer, nodal contact person. Code was announced back in February 25 and came in operation May 25. Twitter has, as of now, not shared the details. Twitter recently removed the blue verified tag. Speaking of Twitter, of course, the current Elon Musk controversy. Initially, he was on board and he was about to buy it, but 5% जो spam or fake profiles है उसके वजह से he had put it on hold. Who's the current chairman and CEO of Twitter? Parag Agarwal is the CEO. Who's the current chairman of Twitter? Not really. It's Brett Taylor. Jack Dorsey, of course, was the founder of Twitter. Okay, so Twitter is an American microblogging and social networking service on which users post and interact with messages known as tweets. Section 79 in the Information Technology Act says that social media intermediary will not be in the radar of legal action for any third-party information, data, communication link made or available or hosted by them. IT Act 2000 is an act of Indian Parliament. It's the primary law in India dealing with cyber crime and electronic commerce. Okay. Okay, so this was there. Next up, one rank, one pension scheme. Right. Let's move ahead. So this is one rank, one pensions. The Supreme Court has asked the center to show how many personnel in armed forces have benefited from the one rank, one pension policy, the OROP policy. Court also said this center stand on OROP presented a much rosier picture than what it is actually given to the pensioners of the armed forces. OROP means a payment of same pension to military officers for the same rank for the same length of services, irrespective of the date of retirement. Before OROP, ex-servicemen used to get pensions as per pay commission's recommendation at the time when they had retired. Uttar Pradesh and Punjab have the highest number of OROP beneficiaries. Armed force personnel who had retired till 30th June 2014 are covered under it. The implementation was based on the recommendation of the Khoshyari Committee, right? A 10-member all-party parliamentary panel formed under the chairmanship of Bhagat Singh Khoshyari. ORP means payment to uniform pension to military personnel retiring in the same rank with the same length of service irrespective of their date of retirement, plus any further enhancement in pension rates to be automatically passed to the past pensioners. Justification: military personnel, of course, retire much earlier. Civilian employees retire at 60, the ones retire at 35, 38. Non-commissioned officers and joint commissioned officers retire at 40, 45. Most officers in the early 50s denied opportunity for longer service at higher pay grades and hence higher pensions. Each pay commission widens gap between veterans who have retired earlier and those who retire later, since retirement date also determines quantum of pension, right? Terms and conditions of military service, such as tougher than civilian employees. Soldiers undergo prolonged hardship, posting risk to lives and restriction of fundamental rights. Problems: grant to full OROP will further bloat the government's pension bill by 8,300 crores ahead of the 7th pay commission. Administrative problems, huge task to pass all the benefits with no cutoff date, blah blah blah. Legal complications, it will lead to similar demands by other government employees, especially the paramilitary forces. So what are the paramilitary forces, guys? Can you name at least five of them? Okay, CRPF, Criminal Reserve Police Force, ITBP, Indo-Tibetan Border Police, CISF, Central Industrial Security Force, BSF, Border Security Force, which is the largest border police force in the entire world. Assam Rifles, that's absolutely correct. Are we missing anything? Assam Rifles, BSF, CRPF, CISF, ITBP. एक वो भी है सशस्त्र सीमा बल ऐसा कुछ नाम है NSG. Are they included under the paramilitary forces? I don't think so. It's a specialized agency, but they pick up people from the ongoing police personnel and defense forces. Right. The special frontier forces कुछ नहीं है. I think SPG is something which is there. SPG is the special protection group. और NSG पैरामिलिट्री में पता नहीं मैं कहूँगा कि नहीं. सेंट्रल आर्म फोर्सेस में तो वो डेफिनेटली आती हैं. But paramilitary, I still have qualms about it. So it is the specialized counter-terrorism force, right? और इनका employment भी एकदम अलग ही होता है. ITBP is there, yeah, right. Indo-Tibetan Border Police. ठीक है. So employees on contributory pension scheme since 2000 may demand return to fixed pension, right? So these are the legal complications and other things related to OROP. Hoshiari committee. Speaking of the important committees and commissions, I hope you have been revising the important committees and commissions, their recommendations, and who's heading it. क्योंकि ये अक्सर पूछा जाता है. ठीक है. ठीक है. Let's move ahead. Overhauling of NCC, the National Cadet Corps. So Ministry of Defense has constituted a high-level expert committee for a comprehensive review of the NCC by Jayant Panda. He will be the chairperson of the committee, and it will include 15 other members, including MS Dhoni and Mahindra Group Chairman Anand Mahindra. So take a picture here and let's move ahead. New India Literacy Program. Speaking of the Education Minister, who is the current Cabinet Minister of Education, guys? Dharmendra Pradhan. Yes. Shreya Ira. Both of you are correct. Vinayak is also correct. Harshada, Shashank, Richa. Yes. Yes. Darshan, Shriram, all of you are correct. Dharmendra Pradhan. All right. A new scheme on education for all. Formerly termed as adult education objectives, reaching 5 crores learners for the foundational literacy and numeracy, covering non-literates of the age of 15 years and above, online teaching, learning and assessment system OTLAS to cover learners, collaboration with NIC, NCERT and NIOS for wider reach of scheme. Government approved a new scheme for New India Literacy Scheme for the period 22 to 27 to cover all the aspects of adult education to align with the National Education Policy, the NEP 2020. In the budget announcements. National Education Policy has recommendations for adult education and lifelong learning. Union budget announcement had been made to enable increased access of resources. Online modules covering the entire gamut of adult education will be introduced. The objective of the scheme is to impart not only foundational literacy and numeracy, but also to cover other components which are necessary for citizens of 21st century. The estimated total outlay of the New India Literacy Program is over 1,037 crore rupees, which involves central share of 700 crore rupees and state share of 337 crores. Okay, so take a picture of this and let's move to the next slide. Amar, Jawan, Jyoti. So, of course, this has been merged with the flame of National War Memorial ahead of the Republic Day. Right. Why was this decision taken? The decision was to merge the two flames was taken keeping in mind that the flame at Amar Jawan Jyoti paid homage to martyrs of 1971, the Indo-Bangladesh War. Indo-Bangladesh नहीं बोलूँगा, पाकिस्तान बांग्लादेश का वॉर जिसमें इंडिया ने reinforcements भेजे थे, right? But now the names are present there, while the names of all Indian martyrs from all the wars, including 1971 and wars before and after it, are housed at the National War Memorial. About the National War Memorial, so this was inaugurated back in 2019 by Narendra Modi. Eternal torch of this memorial burns at the heart of the Smarak Stamb, the main pillar of memorial inside the Amar Chakra. Names of 25,942 soldiers have been inscribed in golden letters on granite tablets. Amar Jawan Jyoti flame at India Gate has been merged with the flame at National War Memorial in New Delhi. Ceremony to merge the Amar Jawan Jyoti flame was presided over by Chief of Integrated Defence Staff B. Radhakrishnan. India Gate has unveiled in 1931 and it was built to honor 70,000 soldiers of British India who gave supreme sacrifice. Amar Jawan Jyoti was set up after the 1971 Indo-Pakistan War. After long wait and multiple consideration, the National War Memorial was built in the India Gate complex and it was inaugurated back in 2019. ठीक है, so another news, merging of Amar Jawan Jyoti with the National War Memorial. ठीक है, let's move ahead. Import of drones. So yeah, so the DGFT or the Directorate General of Foreign Trade under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry banned the import of foreign drones. The move comes after the Union Budget proposed Drone Shakti scheme. In fact, the 27th and 28th Wala event, which is the National Drone Mahotsav, it's also extremely important. So have a look at that as well. The import of drone components, however, was not banned and will not require any approval. Drone rules in 2021, Ministry notified liberalized drone rules for the aim to encourage R&D and to make India a drone hub. Government also approved a production incentive for drones and their components with an allocation of rupees 120 crores for 3 financial years. What is Drone Shakti scheme given by the push for promotion of drones? Through startup and skilling at industrial training institutes, startups will be promoted to facilitate drone Shakti through varied application and for drone as a service. DRAS. ठीक है. 5G trials to commence in India. Department of Telecommunications has allowed the telecommunication companies to start trials for 5G services for a period of 6 months. I think Ashwini Vaishnav recently was there, and I don't know where I saw him. पहली बार उसने शुरू किया था that call. Yeah. So yeah, it has started, and the trial run and calling in other facilities are being checked. Trials will have to be conducted in rural and semi-rural areas. The tie-up for trials are as under service provider Bharti Airtel, Jio, V, MTNL, company Ericsson, Nokia, Samsung, Center for Development of Telematics. None of the telecom operators entered into a tie-up with Chinese telecom equipment and technology vendors UI or ZTE. The Chinese vendors have not been officially barred from the trials. But that Cold War has already started, I think, between India and China. Right. Okay, so another relevant news. Demand for Rajya Sabha seat to Chandigarh. Chandigarh Municipal Corporation has approved a proposal to amend Article 80 so that its councillors could send a representative to Rajya Sabha. Article 80 of the Constitution deals with the composition of Council of States, right? The Rajya Sabha, also called the Upper House and Rajya Sabha. So far, Chandigarh has no representation in Rajya Sabha. Chandigarh is a UT without any legislative assembly and has a seat of Member of Parliament in Lower House or the House of People. Chandigarh residents select an MP every 5 years through direct voting. UTs of Puducherry, Jammu and Kashmir, the NCT of Delhi have representations in Rajya Sabha, while Ladakh, Chandigarh, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu, and Andaman and Nicobar and Lakshadweep are represented in the upper house. Okay? All right. Prime Minister has launched Sansad TV, which has been created by merging Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha with Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla. Okay? Rajasthan has the maximum households electrified through solar-based standalone system, while hill states of Himachal Pradesh and Sikkim and UT of Jammu and Kashmir had nil beneficiaries under the initiative, right? Solar-based standalone system. India also happens to be one of the important members in the International Solar Alliance, right? Kerala is set to become the first state in the country to introduce carbon neutral farming methods in selected locations, for which the government has set aside rupees 6 crores in 2020-23 budget. All right. All right. So this was a quick revision session related to some of the important bits in policy and governance. Look at your exams. I hope everything is in line. ALET is happening on 25th of May, Wednesday. LSAT India 8th of June. DUL will be 10th of June, Friday. CUET, SLAT, Bharatiya Vidyapeeth, NMIMS, MHCET, ULSAT, all of it is there. So take a picture of it. Ensure that this is stuck right in front of your table. And upcoming sessions. So we had the session today, then you will be having another session. So the GK marathon of course continues. So we'll be having a session tomorrow, day after, so on and so forth. And some of the Synclat proctored analysis session will also be there. So Synclat 22 analysis session is happening tomorrow from 7 to 9. So be present for that. All right. Chalo, thanks a lot guys for sparing some time on a lovely day in Delhi at least. It's raining outside. All right, so I wish you all the best and I hope you keep your preparations on track. I'll see you again next time. Take care. Bye, guys.